Chapter 5 continued. I couldn't see the full extent of the carnage. The flying mud in the dirt stunned my eyes, blinding me, but I could hear it. The horrific screams and desperate begs for mercy echoed through the trees before the forest was finally rendered into an eerie, suffocating silence. A series of distant howls echoed through the mountains, indicating the hunt was over. A lawless freedom had been brought upon the forest. I sat up in the dirt, wiping the mud from my eyes the best I could. The massive black wolf trotted back into the clearing, panting heavily. I looked down at her foreleg and watched in absolute awe. The strip of fabric from the sweater was still there, wrapped tightly around her wounded paw. She walked over and nudged me softly with her large wet nose. She carefully placed her razor-sharp canines directly around the chain of my handcuffs and snapped her jaws together. With a loud crack, the metal broke clean in two. She nudged me again, letting out a soft whine. I reached out my trembling hands, placing them gently on her massive muzzle. Her soft, warm tongue flicked against my palm in pure reassurance. Then she stepped closer, curling her thick protective coat entirely around my body, keeping me safe from the cold, just as I had done for her. Wrapped up in her warmth, a contented sigh of pure admiration escaped my chest. A sudden feeling of safety and happiness was an impeccable outcome, and under the protection of the pack, I drifted into deep sleep. When I woke early the next morning, the warmth was gone. I was entirely alone. I sat up, rubbing my face, wondering if the sanity-shattering events of the night before had been another vivid, drug-induced dream. The sun was just beginning to peek over the jagged horizon, casting long, pale shadows through the trees. I stood up and took a step, only to look down. I had to carefully step over the mutilated body of the fallen police officers. I groaned in pure disgust, my stomach turning. Definitely not a dream. An overwhelming wave of guilt crashed over me. I mean, these men had families, lives, homes, and I had led them straight to a horrible violent fate just because I wanted to escape the law. Sighing heavily to myself, I began to walk through the dense forest, trying to find my way back to the road, but a sudden ominous presence lurked right behind me. The hairs on my back of my neck stood up. I spun around quickly. Nothing. Only the innocent sounds of the morning birds chirping and rabbits rustling in the undergrowth. I let out a breath, turning back around to continue walking, and gasped, freezing, dead in my tracks. At boots, nearly stumbled right over someone sitting directly in my path. It was a man in a wheelchair holding a firearm tightly in his lap, staring right at me.
Just what do you think you're doing here, boy?
The man asked, his voice rough and cutting through the morning air.
I got lost?
I mumbled, my eyes nervously darting to the firearm resting heavily on his lap.
No one just gets lost out here, boy.
He countered smoothly.
Either you know the place or you don't. If you do, you're a visitor. If you don't, then you're a trespasser.
I glanced at the man's wheelchair for a brief moment before he leveled a disdainful glare at me through a pair of thick aviator glasses.
Eyes on me, boy.
He scolded coldly. I looked back at him, a small bit of an aggravated expression tightening in my jaw.
You got some nerve coming around these parts,
The man muttered, leaning forward.
It's best if you leave before those wolves get to you.
So you've seen him?
I asked quickly, eager to change the subject away from my trespassing.
Yeah, I have, but I wouldn't advise you to go looking for them. They're a bad bunch, you know. Why, they even killed 2 officers last night.
He adjusted the grip on his firearm.
But enough chit-chat. Get out of here before I decide to do a little target practice on your puny little head.
I snorted, turning on a heel and walked right past his chair.
Look who's being called puny.
I mouthed silently to myself.
Oh, and kid, don't let me catch you around here no more.
he shouted after me.
These are dangerous territories.
Let out a harsh snort, spun his wheels around, and rolled away into the brush. I watched him go, completely unable to figure out what the old man was talking about. Dangerous territories. What did he mean? Surely he wasn't talking about the wolves. They had literally just protected me from the law. Hadn't they? I sighed heavily, finally making my way to the dense timber and back to the road. To my dismay, I noticed the Mustang had completely pinned, surrounded by the inoperable empty squad cars from last night's chase. Great, I muttered to myself. I began inspecting the cruisers as I passed them, checking for a way out, and I realized one of the vehicles still had the keys dangling in the ignition. I climbed into the driver's seat, started the engine, and carefully maneuvered the cruiser out of the path of the Mustang. As I went to shift it into park, something on the dash caught my eye. The police computer screen still was active, displaying my own VIN and full name. Place record popped up in bold, flashing open warrants for my arrest. I shook my head, about to climb out, when I noticed the corner of a piece of paper sticking out of the glove compartment. Driven by a sudden curiosity, I popped open the compartment. I pulled out a strange, beautifully preserved photograph, but as I looked closer, a gasp but pure horror caught in my throat. The picture revealed two young couples smiling on a sun-drenched beach in Florida. One of the men in the photos was undeniably my dad, standing beside a mysterious woman who was definitely not my mother. I flipped the photo over. Written across the back in elegant cursive was an inscription, "With love, you Mr. Stanica." My heart instantly sank into a hollow, freezing void. The realization had hit me like a physical blow. My father was one of the officers who had responded to the chase last night. He was out there trying to protect me, or arrest me, or both. And now, because of the pack, he was dead.